Our next speaker will be Andy Talley, speaking for the Talley branch of the Talley dance, intermarried, as you're going to hear. Andy, please take the floor.
Glad to accommodate you. Unlike Jack, I didn't have the real pleasure of growing up here as a child in the farm area. My dad did for a while. Woodbine on Silverside Road, his father had a farm there. And then his dad decided to move in town. His oldest brother, Roy, told his father he would make a big sissy out of him, taking him into the city and not letting him stay out on the farm. Well, he didn't turn out to be a sissy, but I do miss, when I hear stories like I've heard today, I miss the experience of not being able to enjoy the same thing. The Talley family, when I was a child, we had a lot of picnics out in Claymont on Larch Avenue at Thomas Talley's home, which is now a parking lot for the fire company. Lawson Avenue, not Larch, Lawson. And we would discuss, or I'd hear the elders discussing the family history, where our name came from. And they had a joke. When the people came off the boats, they counted them 1, 2, 3, 4 Talley. We do know that the Talley family has been here in Delaware since the area of 1668, that area. And we do find that William Talley, on rolls of Old Swedes Church, his name was spelt T-A-L-L-E-Y. But we cannot, like the Grubbs, go further than that. I envy the Grubb family in their beautiful history abroad. It's very fascinating to read that. William Talley the Great, he was the third generation. Let me step back. The Talley land ran from Naaman's Creek down to Loncombe Run, which is just below Grubb Road, on either side of Foulk Road. That was their original piece. Members of the Booth family that I haven't had time to delve into their heirs at this point in time had the original deed to that land. Whether they still do or not, any members, I don't know. I would love to find out. But William the Great, he bought more land after that bit of land. He added to his holdings, and he came down to Silverside and Foulk Road on the side where Pembray and Penarth are. He owned all that land. It butted up to the Webster farm, the old Bird farm, which became Gray Acres, Gray Magness's grandfather, and the lands fronting on Silverside Road. Silverside Road used to be called Kellum Road, I believe, did it not? Is that familiar with you? And William had 4 children, 2 daughters and 2 sons. His 2 sons were Thomas and William. I'll go with Thomas Talley because everything on that land keeps coming down. And Thomas, before I forget this though, William the Great married Hannah Grubb. They were second cousins. And Hannah was in direct line of, gotta stop and catch it.
John Grubb?
John. Direct line of John. Another thing about the Thomas Talley, he had 5 children. William, Adam, Thomas, Richard, and Charity. I'll mention William and Adam because they both married Francis Day's daughters. And Adam Talley, I believe, owned the corner of the McBride property, but he owned 100 acres, which butted up to the Day property. The son that came down Richard Talley from Thomas, he inherited that land for life, and then it was passed on to his son Penrose. This is the 100 acres, Pembray and Penarth. Richard Talley's son, and I'll tell you, they had a lot of Penrose Talleys. I get so confused if I don't write the Penroses down, I get lost to who they were under. But in any event, Penrose, through his children, the land went on down to my great-grandfather and his brother. My great-grandfather's land was Penarth. When he passed, his children sold that land to members of the Talley family. Lawrence Talley, Lawrence Pyle Talley, who was a realtor here in the area, he bought that land and then later developed it into Penarth and then sold off the perimeters. The house that my great-granddad built, the original house burnt down. The second house is still standing at the entrance to Penarth. It's the frame house in back of the tall trees. He built that somewhere in about 1874. Lawrence Talley inherited from his dad all of Pembray, those lands, and he developed those lands also. There is a Talley Foulk burial ground up in the area of the corner of Foulk and Silverside Road. It would be called what? The northwest corner. Up and back of the old station now they have all torn up.
Foulk and Names.
Foulk and Names. They talked a lot about the Talley family starting that cemetery. I don't believe so. I think it was begun by the Foulk family that became owners of that corner. William Talley, the great, he was buried up in St. Martin's Episcopal Church. This is one other thing that gives me belief that the Talley family does have heritage from England, the fact that they were of the Mother Church of England, their initial membership. There are numerous Foulk and Talley buried there, but in Mr. Foulk's will, he stated in his will that the burial ground would be for the Foulk family and connections, so that the Talleys that are buried there are tied in to the Foulk family by marriage. Most of our family are interred at Chester Bethel, starting with my great-great-grandfather on down. I can trace it. Richard Talley, he's one of the members that are in the Talley Foulk Club. Some years ago, my two uncles told me of some of their experiences growing up out on Silverside Road. And every Saturday night, they used to alternate taking Mr. Gray, the farmer across the street, as I mentioned earlier, A. Gray Magness's granddad, to town. He was a very hard-working farmer. He worked from sun up to sundown, 6 days a week. They took him to town on Saturday night to relax, and on Sunday he prepared himself for another hard 6 days of labor. I ran into Mrs. Magness, A. Gray Magness's mother, one day, and I introduced myself. Well, we had a big time talking, and she remembered my uncle's taking her dad to town on Saturday nights. I have the deed for the 100 acres that I've talked about. The original deed was destroyed by the British when they came through Delaware, Newcastle. And that deed was in 1877. In 1786, William Talley issued a confirmatory deed to Thomas for that same 100 acres. I have that deed. It's kind of a nice thing to have, and give you some anchor in the Brandywine Hundred area. As far as other old stories, the McBrides, I remember going up there as a child, going swimming in their small swimming pool, wasn't bigger than a postage stamp, and on the swings and playing ball. Going across the street, that's the only reason I enjoyed going out there, because I got to go across the street for Cooper's ice cream. That was the best part of the day. And that kind of brings me up to date with you for the Talley family. I wish I could give you more Talley stories of some of the things that did go on through the growing up years of my family members. But I do cherish being a part of this community. Though I don't live here anymore. I live in Lower Delaware. I've moved there since '71.
Okay, given the lateness of the hour, Carolyn, we're just going to give one question. Did you want to ask a quick question?
I just wanted to interject something. He mentioned a Gray family, somebody by the name of Gray.
I had the old bird farm.
Bird farm.
Okay, again, we're tied in with you. Archmere Academy, again, after the Grubbs sold their property, it went to an Alexander Dick, who he died without a will, and the land was sold at auction to a Thomas Gray. So I don't know
I
if
don't know if
there's,
it's any relation to
I
that
don't
or
know.
not.
Great.